What is going on, everybody? Welcome to yet another episode of The Rose Show. As always, I am your host, Jay. Who else but me? And today, my guest is MMA fighter Jayde Sheeley. I had a real good time having a conversation with her, which you'll see here shortly. She was somebody I've been following because she knew Chelsea Connor, friend of the show, Chelsea Connor. And I followed her page just off of that association. And ever since, I've wanted to talk to her. So, yeah, there was the timing lined up for both of us to where we could get together and have a conversation and talked about some things that I don't normally talk about. But it was topical and something that we both experienced, which you'll understand here when we start having a conversation, exactly what I'm talking about. But since it was on topic and something we both feel passionate about and have had experience dealing with those kind of things, I thought it was appropriate. So, forewarning, normally you don't hear this kind of a conversation coming from me, but hey, I thought it was right. And I think people are totally understand what we're talking about when we get there. But anyway, no more spoilers. So that's neither here nor there. So, yeah, I'm not going to talk that much because we had a great conversation and I ain't got nothing to say because I'm excited for you to hear what I got for you today. So, how about a word from my sponsor and then my interview with Jayde Sheeley? Let's do it. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Jay, and I'm here for W Energy, my sponsors. Now, what is W Energy, you might ask? W Energy is clean, jitterless energy. Better than the canned stuff that you would get at your convenience stores, your gas stations, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't have all that trash in it. Now, how do I know? Because I myself use W Energy. So what I've got here, a couple of limited edition flavors. For instance, W Energy puts out this stuff called Grandpa's Ginger Water. I know it don't sound that great, but it is amazing. Limited run that they came out that I've got actually multiple tubs of. I believe in W Energy. I use W Energy myself. Also, this was just released and it's another limited edition flavor that they come out with, and it's called Pom Blom. It's pomegranate blossom. Real nice, clean flavor. And a lot of W Energy, whether it be classics like Calio Cream or the Dub Sludge, whatever it might be, it is clean energy. It's not going to make you feel all crappy at the end of the day after using it. Now, here's what I want you to do, because again, they're obviously a sponsor of mine, but what I want you to do is I want you to go to www.w.gg, order one of the sampler packs, which you get one of these cool tumblers, a part of the sampler pack, and I want you to grab one, but don't use my promo code. That's right. Don't use my promo code Who Else at checkout, because I want you to try it without thinking I'm just trying to sell you a bill of goods. Try it one time, and then when you go back to buy your second order of W Energy, then use my promo code Who Else at checkout for a 10% discount, because all you're going to do is try it. I know you're going to love it. That's how much I believe in this product, and I thank them for sponsoring the show today. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to yet another episode of The Rose Show. As always, I am your host, Jay. Who else but me? And today, my guest is somebody from my home state of Ohio. She is training at Ronin Training Facility. She's a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which that's just crazy to think that somebody is on my show that has that kind of discipline on it. But we'll get into all that stuff here in a little bit. And she also has a background in law enforcement, which is something I really want to talk about as well. But we'll get into all that and more here in a little bit. It is MMA fighter Jayde Sheeley. My friend, how are we doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm excited. It's my day off. I'm not used to having Saturdays off, so I'm excited I was able to fit this into my schedule and ready to get talking.
Well, I definitely appreciate you taking your day off to talk to me too. It's definitely for me, full disclosure for those watching, because this is going to be obviously a few weeks out by the time this releases. Today is SummerSlam for me, which is a
Oh,
wrestling event, and it's one of the 3 wrestling events where I actually become social and I have people over. So like it's
it's
this is a great day for me
a
as
good
well.
day. Good weather, good day. It's gonna go good.
And it's not boiling hot. And
I
if
know.
you being from Ohio, you know exactly what I mean. Yes, it does get hot in Ohio. This summer has been crazy for
No, it's
heat. It's
been
been crazy.
disgusting. And like where I walked outside yesterday and today, I'm like, this is fall weather. Like I can wear
Yeah,
a hoodie or something and not like sweat my ass off. So, but that's typical Ohio. You never know what you're gonna get when you walk
right.
outside.
Yeah, for sure. It could be snowing, or in the next day it could be 70, which I'm pretty sure we've had that happen in the last 5 years. But
Literally.
hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. But anyway, let's go ahead and start at the beginning. And what I'd like to do is have you tell me and all the viewers today a little bit about yourself and your background and kind of how you got interested into MMA.
Yeah. So I have been fighting. I'm gonna be 32 next month, actually. I keep like I was just joking. I'm like losing track of time. Like I'm at that age where I'm like, I don't know how old I am. I don't know. Like I'm just
Hmm.
vibing, living. But I had my first fight, my amateur fight at 19. I grew up in a fighting family. My dad is my coach. He fought. He MMA was just starting, I think what UFC started in 1993. So he had maybe three MMA fights at the end of his kickboxing Sanchow career. I grew up around fighters. I loved it. Um, as I've said in like almost every interview, my dad like really pushed me to do some other stuff. Didn't like want to focus on it. Didn't work. So ended up just I'm still doing it. Like every person that has fought, they're like, please don't follow my like lead. Go do something where you're not gonna get injured and go through this emotional trauma and mental toughness and everything. But yeah, I've been fighting, gosh, for I mean, I guess that's over 10 plus years. Made my pro debut in 2022 with LFA, long awaited. I think I was on shit at least it could be 4 to 5 year layoff since my last amateur fight before I made my pro debut, just with life, college, career. And it's just been going. So I'm excited. I've made some really big changes within the last month. And things are going good. I'm just excited.
Awesome. Well, that's interesting that your dad didn't want you to get involved into MMA. He wanted you to try something a little bit easier. But the from all my research I've seen, the other thing that you chose was law enforcement, which
Yeah.
is not easier, or if anything, it's probably a little bit
No.
harder. Let's talk about that a
Um,
little bit.
yeah, it's so it's really funny. I've actually just resigned from a full-time position in law enforcement. I still work for the same agency. It's like for people that don't understand it, I'm holding my commission there, which means I don't work
Mhm.
full time. But they do verify that my certification is still active. So if I chose to come back full time, I could. But yeah, I it's funny. I never wanted to be in law enforcement. I'm really good at my job. I will say that, but it wasn't for me. But I went to school. I paid for my own schooling too, so I joke with my parents all the time because I paid for college and I still like chose something that wasn't my calling. But I went to Ohio University for sociology, criminology, got my bachelor's, and I got out and I was like, I just want to fight. Like, so I did. I just trained. I was a bartender in the short north down in Columbus. I made a shit ton of money, and my dad was just like, listen to me. Like I worked construction my whole life and I had no schooling. I had to fight, like work my ass off in fighting to like make a living. And don't do what I did. Like build a resume, like have other options so if you get sick of this, if you get sick of fighting, like you have other avenues. And I pushed back a lot. I was like, I know what I'm talking about. I'm 22. I know how I want my life to look. You're wrong. And so we did that for a while and eventually so he was actually instructing. He did the defensive tactics portion at a local police academy and he was like, just go through. Just do it. If you don't like it, it's okay. You can just have the certification. It just shows you've done something with your degree that you just paid all this freaking money for. So I went through and I was like, okay, like being a cop isn't just like driving around writing tickets. I might like this because I like helping people. I like inspiring people. I think maybe that's why I love fighting so much. It's just in a male dominated sport and just being an inspiration is just that's what I'm drawn to. And so I kind of saw that avenue in law enforcement and I did that for 6.5 years and I loved it. But that's just not all the job is.
Yeah.
I would explain to people like My job is so much like being a cop is very fun and very fulfilling, but that's not what it is. It's a lot of like conflict mediation. Like I'm always dealing with conflict day in, day out. I'm coming there, I'm mediating stuff. I'm like always on edge. Like, is something going to happen? Do I got to protect you? Do I got to protect me? It was just so much where, at my last fight, I remember like getting emails about like a felony case trial I had, and it was going to be after my fight. And they were just like, okay, well, when we get back, we need to do this. And I'm like, God, why am I like trying to rush my fight week and like the experience that I love to get back and do something that I just like my heart is not in it like that. Like why am I doing we just sat down. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to change my life, but I'm going to cuz I'm just not happy.
Yeah.
And I did. So I quit, and July 6th was my last full-time day. And I still love law enforcement, but I have not missed like going to work and just being on edge. It was just my whole life was chaos. So I was like, I need a balance. So I'm in a big new aspect of life right now. So it's exciting.
Yeah. I am on where I live in Piqua, Ohio, which is not far from Columbus, about
No.
an hour and a half. Um, I'm on Piqua's Civil Service Commission.
Oh yeah.
The reason why I got on there was just because I was kind of curious about, and I won't get into the backstory, but I put the Piqua government through hell for a couple of years over utility rates and blah 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 blah. And everybody always kept telling me, okay, well, since you know how this stuff should be ran, why don't you put your money where your mouth is and get involved? So I said, okay. And there happened to be an opening on civil service. So I'm like, yeah, sure, I'd love to check
Like
that
why
out.
not? Let's see what's going on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think I've been on the board since 2019, and hearing some of the stories, like obviously you have your own thoughts of law enforcement, no matter who you are before you get involved, if you ever do get involved with it.
Mhm.
And obviously had my own as well. But hearing some of the stories of some of these guys is because being on the Civil Service Commission, you get to hear the people, not the officer, not the
Mhm.
persons you have to be on when you get in that car and put on that badge and strap on your gun. I get to hear the other side, the actual humans, and they tell stories that they wouldn't tell normal people. And I have gained such a huge respect for the amount of stress that job puts on you.
Yeah.
The amount I don't people don't realize like you I mean you said it. Every time you leave that precinct or the station or whatever you're at, your life could be at risk just
Yeah.
going to a random stop. And people I think intentionally don't realize stuff like that. And the other side to that is recently we had some First Amendment auditors come through trying to do some stuff. Now, if you don't know
In
what a
Piqua? Yeah.
in Piqua, yes, over
Okay.
battery
Yeah, I,
burning,
I am
yes.
familiar with what they do. So I luckily I haven't
For
had to deal with some of the crazy stuff I've seen
yeah,
online, but we've had a few like just low level stuff at our airport and whatnot.
yeah, for the people that are watching that don't understand what those First Amendment honors are, basically the concept of what this thing is a good idea, but with the invention of social media and YouTube and the internet, people do stuff like this for clicks. So they basically go to commission meetings, they go into situations to make sure people are their freedoms to being able to talk are not violated. In theory, that's a really, really good idea for those things to exist. The problem is these people are just clickbaiters in their own way, nine
Yeah.
times out of 10, and they're trying to do something to get you to fuck up
And
so
it's
their
like a
channel blows
very
up.
fine line in between your First Amendment and disorderly conduct.
Hmm.
It's not a one thing fits every incident. So
Yeah,
I'm just always like, you can until something of that state ordinance fits and you're
right.
disrupting the public or you're saying something offensive to someone in a public space. So it just and stuff like that. Like I like we had some guy do that at our airport, and I actually have seen that. And I remember talking to because it is wild. Ball Fountain has an airport and it's in the city, but it's out. It's technically in the county. If you're a regular person, you're like that's out in the
Sure.
country. But it's
Yeah.
in our jurisdiction. It was put in through the city, And this guy might have had a mental disorder or something of that sort. Younger, real nice car, like a souped up kind of Mazda, and he had walked into the airport and kind of like had been like said, "Get me a fucking plane." Like it was just real weird. And they called and they want him trespass. And just with me, his seeing stuff, and I was like, that airport is a public like facility.
Right,
And
right,
because,
right.
I was talking to some people and they're like, yeah, just go down there and remove him. I was like, as long as he's not like in an unaccessed place or like making a threat, I was like, he's allowed to be weird and he's allowed to be strange and off-putting to people. And I had to come down there. I'm like, I believe you. If I was a real like a regular person, I'd say, get this fucking weirdo out of here. Like he feels like he
Yeah.
has a gun or something. He can feel that way. But like I can't tell him to leave because you're weirding everyone out. Like, and we really like they and he respected that, actually, that I knew and I understood that. And then eventually I was like, dude, you can, as long as you're not violating rights, you can hang out in the parking lot. But people like that. And he wasn't filming either, so I don't know if he was just having like a psychosis, or there's just so many different things that we would run into. But stuff like that, I was telling people, I'm like, dude, we're not in a big city, but people do that. They'll come in and they'll be like, okay, remove me, go ahead. And then you're getting sued for
Hmm.
violence, and you're like, God. Meanwhile, I could be down the street, there's a freaking robbery or some kids getting molested, but I'm down here dealing with your
Right.
like amendment.
Yeah.
It was yeah, stuff like that where I'm just like, God damn, like I don't want to have to do this every day. Like I don't want to.
Right.
I joke now. I'm like, I don't want to have to be the person to tell you to be a good person and follow the law or not stab your husband. Like I just don't want to have to be that person anymore. If you want to be a
Mhm.
shitty person, it's just not my problem. I'm not your parent anymore.
Right.
Um, I don't want to have to think about it. There is, I did help a lot of people, but the majority of that job is the same people you're dealing with, like day in day out. You'll take them to jail for something. They bond out. They're doing the same thing, and it's just like it was very exhausting. So
Yeah. Yeah. And last thing I'll say on it, and we'll move on. But the person that came through Piqua and tried that shit, I still watch the video from time to time because he was going up to an officer and trying to bait the officer into an actual physical altercation. But the officer that he was trying to bait into the altercation is also on Piqua SWAT and is a fucking badass. Had that officer lost control, that guy wouldn't have been around to collect the clickbait money
yeah,
because his head would have been off his fucking shoulders.
it's just it's stuff like that. Just it blows my mind. I'm like, you don't even understand like the stuff that, and it's not an everyday. I'm not saying like being a cop is the hardest. Everyone has their own trauma and stuff that they
Yeah.
deal with. You're never gonna know everyone's story, but just like I just remember telling somebody once that like I had to in the same day. It was my Monday. I'm going to work. I'm doing community. This is when I worked at a different agency. I've been a deputy and worked in a city, a police officer. And when I was a deputy, I was doing some community policing in the trailer park with the kids. And I had to go like put down a deer. Like if somebody hit a deer, we always had to put down deer or something. So it's a lot of shooting deer. So I'm shooting a deer, and then I'm going to do some community policing, and then we get a call um that a guy, long story short, wife calls in. The guy said he grabbed a gun, he ran outside, he said, I'm gonna shoot myself. Like, and it wasn't my call. Obviously everyone's going, and I realize I'm like 1 minute away. I'm down the road. And I'm like, and my first thought is like, I was like, it's a fucking Monday. Like I just wanted to like hang out with some kids. I might see someone shoot themselves. I might get shot out. I might have to fucking shoot. Like, I was just like, are
Right.
you kidding me? And then I remember, like, then after radio, my partner, and I was like, you want me to go? You want me to stage? Like, what do you want me to do? And I was like, well, I'm not, they were calling him out at gunpoint, get on the ground. And and then immediately after that, I'm like going and doing something else. And I joke about this all the time. I have to finish my shift. That's just a normal thing. So we get him into custody. He goes to the hospital. Everything it ended as perfect as it could have. He did not hurt himself. We got the gun away. Um, and then later that day, I had to write like a silly report about like the deer, and I spelled a word wrong, and like I got like that sent back to me. And I'm just like, like I'm over here compartmentalizing. Like I just had to, point my gun at somebody that said he was going to kill himself and his family. And then I'm getting like a report sent back because I've like added an extra.
Right.
I'm like, what is this job? Like, no, like my friends are just like, I couldn't do that. I'm like, dude, it just you just have to keep going with it. You don't have really time to like sit down and process everything because you just see so much crazy shit. Like people ask me all the time, what's the craziest thing you've seen? I'm like, I don't know because it's so normal for me
Right.
that if I told you, you're like, oh my God, I'm like, that's not even the craziest thing. Like I have to make a list and start looking at stuff. But yeah, I learned a lot of life skills from doing that full time that long. And I'm realizing that now when I'm around more like civilian people. Because actually just sidebar before getting into fighting stuff, I couldn't just quit my job and fight full time. I'm too like I need to do other things. Like I have to it's just something in me I need to accomplish. Like I don't know, I wouldn't say ADD, but it's just like purpose driven. I can't sit around all day after training as much as you can only train so much. So I started esthetician school. So I'm doing like facials and like, eyebrow tint, like very girly things. And I'm just with a lot of like soft women, normal people. And I'm just like, wow. And it's okay. Like you don't have to be assertive or overly confident. You can just be a soft person. I'm like, whoa, I'm learning a lot in the last month of not, of being around like people that aren't like me, I guess. Like cuz in
Right.
law enforcement and in fighting, you're a lot of like-minded people that are driven, put others before you. You'll put your life on the line. Same thing in fighting. They go hand in hand. I'm going in the cage. I'll die in that cage kind of thing. Like you hype yourself up going to war. Um, and I'm just around a lot of like normal people and it's refreshing. And I'm like, don't take that for granted. I love that. You don't have to be like me. Like it's
Right.
been fun.
Yeah. Well, speaking about learning things and figuring out how to adapt and adjust, one of the things I've always been curious about, and especially when it comes to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, BJJ for short, um, how do you learn that you have the talent to do stuff like that? Because, like, in my head, I'm thinking, like, there had to have been a point, whether it been training, you know, as a kid, wrestling around with other people on the ground, you realize, oh shit, I can get this person to a choke, whatever it might be. I feel like there's a point where somebody has to always realize, like, I'm really good at doing this. And especially when it comes to submissions and that kind of a style, like you're either really good at it or it's just a side piece for you. But obviously, you being a purple belt, you figured it out. How did you find out that you had the ability and the talent to do stuff like that?
Oh, I don't know if I would say it exactly like that for me.
Okay.
My take on jujitsu though. To answer your question and tie it together, what I was thinking is I put it as if someone asked me like, what should I get into for self-defense? Like, should I get into boxing? I'm like, go do jujitsu. It's a sport that you can like morph it to whatever your lifestyle is. You don't have to be like a competition, you don't have to be a professional athlete, and you're gonna learn some like life skills that could actually work on the street, which in judo, you're not always doing close quarters. Wrestling,
Right.
there's a distance. So I actually got into structured jujitsu in, man, like 2018 probably. So before that, I had multiple amateur MMA fights, and my jujitsu was just very MMA jujitsu, like the stuff you learn at MMA practice, but there's usually not like a black belt teaching you, let alone even a blue belt teaching you. It's just some guy that knows MMA and has fought, and we're just learning. And I realized I wasn't applying that stuff in the cage because I didn't know, like I hadn't done situationals and put myself there, and I didn't really understand stuff. It was like I knew a bunch of things, but I couldn't understand a concept. I knew moves and not concepts. So my dad and then Vitor Oliveira, who owns Ronin Training Center, he was like, "You're spazzy. You're just crazy," which most MMA fighters are. So he's like, "You need to get in here. You need to put a gi on. You need to get uncomfortable. You need to be a beginner again and humble yourself because a lot of MMA fighters are confident. You're probably winning. Like most people that continue on, you've won some, and you just you that high. You're chasing. It, you're like, I'm a fucking badass. Like I'll just punch everyone. I don't need wrestling. I don't need jujitsu until you do." Um, and so it was really humbling to start as a beginner again. And I went in like that. I'm like, I'm not here with an ego. I don't know what I'm doing. And it took a while for it to really flow and stick. And I'm still learning now. Like sometimes I'm like, damn, I'm good. And then I'm like, oh no, I don't know shit about, leg locks like these like people do. But the confidence, you can get past a lot of that by being athletic and being confident. And then the other thing with the jujitsu too, like the belt system, I joke like Vitor doesn't say it, but like I know he does. Like he holds me to a higher standard because I'm a professional athlete, like as he should. He's not gonna. I've been a purple belt for 3 years now, I think, and he's not gonna promote me until I compete more and in strictly jujitsu. And I know that I could go win all my fights by like submissions, and he knows I could do more and perform more. But there's people that don't compete who have a brown or a black belt, and it doesn't mean like you can't always like compare your journey to someone else. It just depends on what they're using the sport for. But that's why I love it because it's something where I'm like, okay, long term, like when I'm not fighting anymore, or like maybe I lose my passion for fighting because just like changing as a person with life, like jujitsu is something that I can do when I'm, God, like 70 even, and just move it to a different level and still have some like competition or some kind of like athlete purpose as I get older. So that's why I love it. It's not like wrestling where I'm like gotta fucking dump people on their backs when I'm in my 60s and I'm like breaking a hip or something. Like you can always modify it to like where you are in life. So I'm like a big promoter on like just start. Not when you're ready, not when you're in shape, not when, the cliche stuff like, oh, I gotta get ready. No, just go start. Like, and if you don't like it, you don't like it. But it builds community too. I think a lot of people are looking for that. Like, what do you do? Just wake up, go to work, and like what are you doing after if you're just a regular person? So it's good for the average person that's not like an athlete for their day job.
Yeah. And to follow up on something that you said, because you triggered something in me there that I've always kind of wondered as somebody who's an outsider to MMA, and I have no plans of ever getting involved in anything like that. I
Oh, it's
don't do
awesome
punch.
though. We need people like that like MMA though. That is
Yeah,
good.
yeah. But you said you don't know that you need something until you need it.
Yeah.
So follow up on that a little bit because as somebody who's just a spectator, I kind of look at everything going on and I don't really tell like where the transition starts as far as like switching from one style to the other. Can you give somebody like me an example of what you just said of not knowing you need it until you need it, or a point where you were like, oh, I'm ready for this. I've been ready
Yeah.
for this to make that switch or something like that?
It's like two things. I'll use my last fight and I'll actually use like law enforcement because it's the first two things.
Okay.
Um so with me like the playing piggybacking off of that before I get into it, to do MMA, you have to you can't just love the wins because this is such like an emotional sport. Like the lows are low and you have to really cliche, but that's why it's constantly said love the process. You have to really fall in love with the whole thing and who you're becoming, what you're gaining out of it. Because the wins are great, but they can give a false sense of reality. Like, yeah, there's people like there's John Jones and there's just so many fighters that go out there and they win and they never lose, but you're probably going to lose. Like that is a realistic thing that happens, and how are you going to handle it? And did you have a false sense of what kind of athlete you were because you were just dumbing people, or you got lucky, or like it just everything fell into place the right way? So And that happened to me. Like that happened to me as an amateur. I think that happens to a lot of people. I would say you're just on this high and you're like, am I the best fighter ever? Like, you're like, do I have this figured out? I must. Until you meet somebody. And so to put that into my last fight, I was just like, yeah, I'm ready. Like this girl's, I really didn't know what she was gonna do. It could have gone either way. She wasn't like a certain like type of fighter. So what happened in my fight actually, I get in there and it was, I wrote it down. That's another thing I do so you don't forget, because it's kind of like any traumatic experience or like a tough experience. After it's over, you don't remember how bad it was or like how it
Mm.
was when you were in there. But I remember getting in there and I don't know if it was the weight cut or just some other things, but I was like, something I can't like dig deep. I can't dig deep. Why can't I dig deep? Because I've done that before. I've literally gone to stuff where I'm like, at work, I'm gonna die today. Like, and that's okay. Like, I'm going to help. So I'm like, I gotta go help this person. So I'm like, what is so then that's happening live time in a 15-minute fight. And I'm like, you gotta troubleshoot because now you can't dive deep. And I remember being like, fuck it. I don't even remember how to shoot. Like my body just wasn't doing what, a shoot for a wrestling shot. And that's kind of my game plan. I go out there and I punch and I do a takedown. Like that's where I found success. And I remember I just couldn't, I don't know. So I remember just grabbing her and jumping guard, which is just grabbing and like basically just wrapping my legs around her, like making us fall to the ground. I'm like, I'll figure it out down here because this is where I have success. And I couldn't. And not only is it kind of like I felt like the shame in there, like doing that, because it is like not an aggressive move. You don't want to do that in an MMA fight. But it was like I just hadn't, my brain couldn't think of another option in that moment. And then when I'm on my back in guard with her my guard in between my legs, I just couldn't make anything happen. Like she wasn't hurting me. I'm not getting hit with elbows, but I realized, holy shit, like she can just lay here and I can't get a submission. And I'm really confident in my jujitsu. But then I realized, okay, right there. I wasn't able to get a submission. I wasn't able to get anything going. So I realized, okay, I got to get up or I'm going to have to find out something else when somebody does that. Cause it wasn't as easy as I thought it would be. I really did. I watched some of her film and just to like kind of put it in a picture, she would lay her head down flat. And so she didn't sit up to do any big strikes because that's when you can get a triangle or an arm bar or like sit out and do a head snap, take the back. And so she played really smart and it wasn't always exciting, but she won from being a smart technical fighter and I couldn't get a submission. And so after that, I was like, huh, damn, like, okay, like, yeah, and it's just another thing you have to be like, well, fuck, like that happened, like I don't know what the fuck I was doing in there, and then you just have to build off of it and be like, okay, well, what did I learn from that? You lose, you learn. Um, so that is like kind of an aspect that I could think of right then is like I didn't need anything else. My jujitsu is so good. And then to take that into law enforcement, it's the same thing because I teach defensive tactics to cops too. So not just my agency, but I work for a company where we travel all over the state in different countries and we go to law enforcement agencies and we teach them basically combatives like wrestling with your gun belt on, like what to do when like gun retention and whatnot, what just different things. And people don't realize they need that until they do. Big strong cops, they just like they don't realize it until you're fighting someone like that, or somebody sneaks up and you get hit in the back of the head, and there's no rules on the street, so the bad guys don't have to play fair. So the same thing, like guys don't realize it until they're like, fuck yeah, like our buddy was in a fight and I watched him just get fucking hip tossed by a skinny crackhead and we didn't realize we needed that kind of stuff because tasers work like and verbal commands work until they don't. And so what are you going to do when you're on a felony stop and you have someone at gunpoint and they're just not listening to you. You don't just shoot them in the kneecap. Like, you have to eventually put your gun away and you have to go hands on with that person. And so how do you go hands on when you don't have any skills? So luckily a lot of agencies are adding in some kind of wrestling control tactics, jiu-jitsu, but yeah, that same aspect, you don't realize you need it until you need it. Life, individual experience, people can tell you all day long, but it's better when you learn the lesson yourself.
Yeah. What is it, that Mike Tyson quote? Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Yeah. Yeah, literally,
Yeah.
that is 100% true. Like, you think it's gonna. I said that same shit with my last fight. I thought I was gonna go out there and do A, B, and C, and I was like, I don't know what the fuck I did out there. Like, you could have told me how that fight was gonna play out, and I would have been like, I would never do that until I did.
Right.
So it's like you just have to have other options, and or like mental cues to pull yourself out when things get difficult and stuff, like in any aspect of life, but especially like related to the cage.
Yeah, sure. And to follow up on something that you said, because I've always kind of wondered this, and you kind of touched it a little bit as far as like the wins. You got to tell yourself that the wins don't matter. I've always kind of looked at it from the fan perspective. It's not necessarily your wins or loss record, because, you look at guys like Tito Ortiz. He still fights even though he knows he's gonna get his ass kicked, but he's a draw. Same thing with Conor McGregor. Like, he won what, like 7 years ago was the last time he won, and he's
Yeah.
still on top. Is that a big problem as far as people think like, oh, I've got to have the best win-loss record, or is it more because you tend to get the most recognition not when you have the most wins, from my perspective anyway. I could be
Mhm.
wrong. But not when you have the most wins, but when you have the most wins in a row. Like, I feel like that's more important than having more wins altogether, or am I completely off base on that?
It could go either way. So just on a basic level, your record 100% matters, and until
Okay.
you're in the UFC. And even then it does, but let's say just off the average fighter, like there's more people that aren't in the UFC that than are.
Right.
So if I like my pro debut, I went up a weight class. I fought a tough ass bitch. Like, she is a great fighter, and I got knocked out. So then I'm like, okay, like, oh, well, I learned all this cool stuff. But that now I have a loss. So now I got to build up. So I'm 3-2, and then I lost my last one too off a decision. So I'm 3-2, and let's say I was 5-0. If I was 5-0, I could very well get a call to the contender series this year, or a
Mm.
last minute, especially being a female strawweight. Um, it I definitely see that, and I see it happening either way. But my coach, who's my dad, he's very realistic with me. Like, after this last one, and tying into that, during fight camp, we don't even talk. Like, I'm very like spiritual and like positive kind of vibes. Like, I'm like, I could get into that whole other thing, but during fight camp, we're delusional. Like, I don't care who's around me. If you're in my fight camp, you shut the fuck up. I'm winning. There is no other option. There's no other route. th- we can talk about whatever after, but I'm winning. It's not like, oh, if I lose, no. Like, we're not talking about that. Like, I'm
Right.
fine. I feel great every day. I feel great. Like that, just shut up. It's positive. And so after, when we have the talks after, because you just have so much going on, you'll psych yourself out if you start thinking about worst case scenarios. And that's why, like, to see it on the other side when I'm not in camp, that is mentally, I have so much going on. I cannot spiral and think about the negatives, because you're already like, you just have so much on your plate. You need to really stay focused positively. Like, you not only do you have your job, your life, like your family, your friends, but then you're gonna like go into, and then you're thinking there's just so much going on. So
Yeah.
afterwards, we talk about, my dad's like, hey, we got to get 2 more wins. We need to, 5-2, we can work with that, but you're 3-2. Like, we got to get more wins. And then once you get to that next level, you're fighting the best of the best. So there is a little bit of leeway. It depends, like how you said, what are you doing in a fight? Like, what's your performance like? And then what kind of like what kind of person are you too? Because it is a business, it's an entertainment business. Most of the time, people don't give a like the average person does not give a fuck if you win or lose. They want to like watch someone because they're entertaining. They either hate them, like they're either shaking their ass or flipping somebody off. Like people want to be entertained. So that's the thing too. They'll watch a fight and then they forget it right after. So and then they can look same thing though. If you fight some bums and you win, they can look at your record. No one's gonna remember if that was a bum or if you padded. So, I see it happen, but I can't hate on the game because I get it. Like you got to do what you got to do. You got to worry about yourself in this sport too. It's not a team. It's an individual career. So yeah, I would say like when you're looking at records to pair like who is the greatest, like what kind of athlete are they? The people that hold a title consecutively, or like you said, the people that are winning back to back to back. That's what brings out like the impressive thing. So I would say once you're like at that UFC level, you don't really have to worry too much. But and it's a business, so you don't want to get cut either. There's just that's
Yeah.
why the sport has a lot of mental drain in it.
Mm.
Not only are you going to war, then you have to worry if you're going to lose your job too. Like,
Right, right. And to piggyback on something you just said, as far as like it matters who you are as a person as well. Um, Paul Daly ruined his entire career with one punch. I think it was Paul Daly with Josh Koscheck when the fight was over and he sucker punched him across the
yeah.
octagon. So that you're absolutely right. Who you are matters. But one thing I wanted to ask, as we kind of wind down here, is you said that if you were 5-0, you would probably get a invite to the Contender Series, especially because you're a strawweight. Why is that? Especially because you're a strawweight? Is it because there's just not that much talent out there, for lack of better words? Is it just there's not a lot of people in that division? Why does that separate you from most?
I don't know. I guess I don't. The word I use isn't too much weight on it. It might have just flowed with my vocabulary.
Okay.
Vocabulary. It may be what I was trying to relate to is more so because I'm a woman. The all
Mm,
women's divisions, they're just not that deep.
yeah.
Um, and they are like compared to when I started. I mean, I remember when the UFC didn't have women in it, so they are deep, but if you're comparing it to the men's, it's just definitely it's not evened out of numbers or just the women that are out there training. I mean, I go to practice today and I'm still the only woman. That is very common to go to a local gym and you're still the only woman. So like the likelihood of me versus my teammate that's a 135er in a male getting into the UFC, the
Yeah.
odds are in my favor and I will fully take advantage of that, until
Sure.
it evens out. I'm like, I should, yep, sorry, yeah. If I would, no one's ever said that, like, oh, you would just get a shot because you're a female. Yep, and like, I don't give a fuck. Like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
just so much to, and it's marketing. It really is. Like it. I don't want to. I don't have no bad blood against her, but just randomly, like the Contender Series had a girl. They've had multiple people from the LFA go to Contender Series or obviously just get short notice fights. And I remember a girl with a really low record and not any like crazy fighting style in my weight class fought for the Contender Series. And I remember telling my dad, like, the fuck is like, how did she? And he's like, it's business, like it's business. You make the right calls, you put the right performance on, it just plays out. It's not always in who's the best fighter. It really isn't. Like it just if that was true, like look at some of the matchups the UFC puts on. Like people get pissed all the time like of their rankings. Like yes, they obviously matter, but people want to get paid. Like most people are just not here fighting to fight to see who's the best. Like you're not taking all this brain damage and stuff. You're doing it
Right.
because you love it. But at a point, you have goals in here. Like okay, like your first goal is you want to win on the amateur level, then the pro level, then I want to get to the UFC, and then it's like, what do you want to do when you're in the UFC? Do you just want to? Do you want to fight and make money? Are you making a title run? Are you trying to be because you'll listen to like maybe it's Dan Hooker who just said that he's like they know when I go in there I'm not fighting to win, I'm fighting to fight. Like I think he said
Yeah.
something like that. He's like I'm throwing, my fights are gonna be entertaining, but I take that risk of something might happen. And so, but you are just learning more about your fighting style, which each fight too. But that's also the shitty part is MMA is not like wrestling where I could go out and just like get one every weekend and get some experience in because the more losses you get, the more you fuck up your record, the harder it is to get a good opportunity. So um there's a lot of like thinking and planning to it, or you could just say fuck it and just see what happens too. It's very there's a lot of different routes you could take.
Yeah. And that's fair because, like, what you're back to what you were saying as far as, like, the person that said, I fight, I don't fight to win, I fight to fight. Here's the thing. And I think this is the thing a lot of people either don't realize or they look past. Like, the UFC, whoever it is, UFC, Bellator, don't matter who it is. They all have promo packages hyping up the fight. Why? Because you need a reason to watch.
Yeah.
And it's like that no matter what. That's the only reason why professional wrestling works is because it is a scripted event, but it's one with drama. It's a
Yeah.
television show. Any live fight atmosphere, even fuck it, let's say football, let's say the NFL, they always have a moment before the game where they talk about the storylines of the game. Why? Because they're trying to give you a reason. Why do you care
Yeah.
about this matchup? It's like that with anything. And one of the reasons why I couldn't stand Dan Hardy when he was fighting in his heyday,
Mhm.
but I would always find myself, as much as I didn't like that guy, if he was on the card, I'm watching to see if he's gonna get knocked the fuck
Yeah.
out.
And
And
that's
then
part of it too. Like, even if you don't like someone, you want to see if they lose. Like,
case
you're
in
a hater.
point, Chael Sonnen.
Yep.
Chael Sonnen. Nobody liked Chael Sonnen. Nobody liked Chael Sonnen when he fought Anderson Silva. Fucking no one liked Chael Sonnen. But he built himself up with his ability to talk on the microphone to the point where it was like, I can't stand. It went from I can't stand that guy, I never want to see him again, to I can't stand that guy, I want to
I
see
want to
who's
watch
gonna
him.
punch his
Yeah.
fucking
Let me
face in.
see if he can get knocked out. Yep.
Right.
And it
Yeah.
is. So and that's the fun part too of just like knowing that and knowing the sport. So I get to see like what route people take. Like, I've seen where I'm like, I know what you're doing. And that's like, I know you're not like that, but I know what, like, I see what you're going for and I like it. Like, so it's fun seeing people like pick what kind of character technically they're going to be. Cause I mean, the people too, they're just like, I'm not big on social media. I'm not big on like doing media days. I'm like, that's fine. But like the average person, and it sucks, but like the average person does not give a fuck. Like, again,
Yeah.
what do you have to sell to that person? Do you have
From me,
charisma?
that
Are
just
you
all you
funny?
just said right there, all you just said right there from a person on the other side is what you just said is, I don't like selling tickets.
Yeah.
That's all I just heard. If you're
Yep.
not on social media, if you're not giving people a reason to come watch you fight, you're not big on selling tickets.
Yep. And it's just there's so many people that don't. It's not like MMA's in high school where all these people have nostalgia, like because they played football and they want to watch football because they played it back in the day. That's not how
Yeah.
MMA is. So it's still I think people forget it's such a new sport. Again, like it's only like 30. Well, it's as old as me, UFC, because it was the year I was born, 93. So it's only 32 years old. So you have to. It's just evolving and yeah, like you have to it sucks, but you have to pick some kind of persona to have if you do, especially like belt holders. I've actually seen a couple organizations I've talked about with my friends. I'm like, God, I know that person just won the belt, but they suck. Like they're not good on the mic. It's really uncomfortable watching them talk. You're just like, I don't know. You're like, God damn. I hope somebody else gets it because listening to them talk is miserable. But it's
Right.
like, I guess they want it. But like, like you said, the average person doesn't care. They're gonna forget about that.
Hmm. Yeah. And now more than ever, I think that's more evident considering the fact that you've got the UFC, which is a legitimate sport based product, and the World Wrestling Entertainment Organization under the same umbrella.
Yeah,
They didn't buy WWE because they didn't think that it couldn't intertwine and gel.
yeah,
It is one and the same. The only difference is the WWE, you know who's going to win at the end.
yeah,
UFC, it's a legitimate sport. Everything leading up to both finishing product is exactly the same.
Yep.
You train, you cut promos, you go from town to town telling people why you need to buy a ticket to see this fight or see this match. Everything up until the actual end result. Now you get there hand in hand. And I don't care
Well,
what
it's
anybody
like
says.
when Rhonda was done, I remember hearing one of her interviews when she was done with UFC. She's like, that was a persona. Like, I took a lot of that from the
Yeah.
WWE. Like, she was a fan of wrestling and was like, that was my character. Like, I
Right.
knew how to sell and how to make people hate me or love me, and they were going to watch either way. Same thing with Connor. Like, it's just
Mm-hmm.
you have to know how to make it yours and make it flow so it feels organic and not forced. And I mean, even if it is forced, people then might watch you because they think you're cringy. That could be it too. Like fucking God, why can't Colby's cringy as fuck, but like I hate the way he does it. But again, here I am. I'm talking about him. I'm bringing his name up. So it obviously works in some aspects. So I guess even if it's bad, it can still be good. Like,
Yeah. Sean Strickland, there's another name right
yep.
there. Doesn't matter what he says. Doesn't matter what he says. He sells tickets and he sells pay-per-views. So at the end of the day,
Yeah.
that really is what matters. But well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today. I've got a lot of respect for anybody that does what you do, both what you did in law enforcement and
Thank you.
obviously as a female in a male-dominated industry. That is one thing that has always struck me. One of the reasons why I didn't really ask you about that in this one is because I spent a lot of time with Chelsea Connor talking to her about that, so I didn't want to be redundant. But I do know the
Yeah.
challenges that makes. But it's I know how hard it is for people in that position like you to make a name for yourself, and you obviously are well on that path of doing so. So again, thank you so much for talking to me today. And I always give the last couple of minutes to my guests. If there's anything you want to plug, social medias, where people can find you, websites, anything like that, floor is yours.
Yeah, I don't have anything crazy. Like I'm on, Instagram. Here I am not selling tickets. But I'm on Instagram. I'm doing exactly what I said. Like people Instagram, TikTok, whatnot. Just my name, Jayde Sheeley, Jayde_Sheeley. But yeah, I don't have any like big sponsors or anything. I'm very like going with the flow right now. But yeah, my team and everyone, they support me, my family. I'm in a good place. I'm excited for hopefully next fight camp should be starting any minute now. We're just waiting on a call. So it's going good.
Nice. Nice. Awesome. Jay, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you.